Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris, and today I'm going to show you how we harvest potatoes that have been planted in plastic. So here are some of our rows. You can see we already harvested this one and part of this one. We had done that by hand, but here's our remaining rows of potatoes that we need to harvest. I had already gone through with the brush cutter and just brush cut the tops off because it makes it easier to pull the plastic out when there's no vegetation above the plastic. So before we get into the harvesting part of the video, I just want to briefly touch on the planting process here. So planting process works very similar to how you'd plant potatoes normally. So you till all your ground up, do any fertilizer or soil amendments that you need to do, and that's kind of where the planting process changes for us. So what we do after that, our ground is tilled, is we have a raised bed plastic layer. So what it does is it goes through the fresh dirt and makes a raised bed, and it lays the plastic and it tucks dirt on the plastic rows. We use that for our pumpkins and other things. We've started using this system because we have such weed issues, and we have not really been successful in getting a good potato harvest. Sorry about the wind. Because of the weeds. The weeds will just overtake the potato plants, and then they disappear, and you can't go through and pull them out because then you're wrecking the mound that you planted the potatoes in. It's been a nightmare. So we thought we'd try the plastic system, and it actually seems to have worked pretty good. So anyway, so we use our plastic layer and we lay the plastic down. So then we have manual planters that we use to plant the potatoes through the plastic. So it basically pokes the hole in the plastic, you drop the potato down the tube, and you release it, and it plants the potato for you. So it does everything you need to do. It is a little bit time consuming doing one at a time, hundreds and hundreds of them, but it's faster than bending over and putting a hole in the plastic and digging it by hand. So that's how we plant them. And then they grow, and then it's time for harvest. So the first thing that we need to do here is we need to get the plastic ripped off and out of the way, because we're going to come through. Like I said, we did these by hand, and that takes a while. So I'm in a hurry today, so we're going to use this potato plow, and it's in the shade so you can't see it real good, but I'll show you a good close-up of it after when we go to use it. This will basically dig into the ground and flip the potatoes over so they can start drying today, and then once they're nice and dry, we'll come back through and actually pick them up. But let's get started with the plastic. So one thing to note when you're pulling up plastic is to take your time. You can see that this is coming up out of the ground. That's where the dirt was thrown on it to hold it. You want to take your time. Sometimes it gets caught, and make sure you actually get it out of the ground. If you don't, you're going to tear it, and then there will be little rips and bits of plastic all over your entire field. All right, I'm going to keep going. Okay, plastic is all cleaned up, and as I was pulling the plastic up, I realized the potential issue with using my shortcut to harvest the potatoes, this plow. This is meant to do a single row of potatoes. That's one hill at a time. And because of the width of the plastic, we actually had 2 rows planted side by side. So you can kind of see there's the top of one, here's the top of another one. You can kind of, if you look down there, you can kind of see side by side. So I am not sure how this is going to work out. I don't think I can drive with the plow over this row be over far enough without possibly the rear tire running over this row. So I'm gonna have to experiment here and see. I don't think driving down the center will completely do it because the potatoes are more here and over here. So I think if I just drive down the center, I'll lift any that are in the middle, but then I'll flop them over on ones that aren't harvested. So yeah, potential issue here. Let me see what I can figure out. Okay, so what I did, you can see I made the pass here. You can see some potatoes. Some of them unfortunately kind of do get covered up, but the other row is over here. So what I was able to do was I took this potato plow, and you can see here's the point of it. The center of the tractor is a drawbar, so I was able to swing it over and lock it in off center, so I wasn't driving over that row, like smashing that down. But what I'm afraid is going to happen, and again we're experimenting here, is you can see there's some, nah, I'm in the way, hang on, there you go. You can see there's some potatoes there. So when I go to drive down this row, I'm afraid it's going to take the ones that are on top and rebury them on this side. But the only thing we can do is try it and hope that it won't completely bury all of them. So this is just not working out for me today here, guys. My shortcut is not a shortcut. So I just realized as I'm going to pull in to dig the second side here, that there's a whole bunch of potatoes that have gotten thrown over that are now going to be in the way, and I'm going to smash all of them. So I cannot go down this side with the potato plow. So I guess what we're going to have to do is plow one row, one side of each of these rows. We'll have to harvest them and then come back and maybe plow the other side, or just dig the other side by hand. So it's all an experiment and we're learning here, so I guess we'll move over to this row. Alright guys, well there you have it. I could only do one row. The potato plow does a good job, and you can see, surprisingly, you know, you'd think it might nick up the potatoes, but you'll have an occasional one that maybe gets nicked up a tiny bit, but for the most part they're good. Now there's still more potatoes that are kind of buried a little bit here and there. You still have to dig a little bit with it, but it's really meant for, you know, your conventional planting, and this is not conventional. So what we'll have to do is, like I said earlier, we either have to come through and harvest the ones that are here and come back and plow the other side, or we'll just harvest what's here and hand dig the other side like we did the original rows over there. But we got a lot of red potatoes here. We did a lot of the white ones already. There's still some white ones over there, but so there we go. It was a partial shortcut to harvesting potatoes. All right guys, here we are. I plowed up the first 3 rows. My wife cleaned them up. Then I went back through and plowed the other rows that I couldn't drive on. So now just here cleaning them up. putting them in the bucket. When the bucket gets full, they go in the gator.